The Sacramento Kings season begins with the flash of a camera. Media Day 2024 is here. I take you inside of the Golden One Center in Sacramento Kings practice facility, where you'll hear from De'Aaron Fox, DeMar DeRozan, Domantas Sabonis, Malik Monk, Keegan Murray, Kevin Huerter, Mike Brown, and more right here on Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all season long. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports anchor and reporter for ABC 10 News here inside my office at the ABC 10 studios. Just got back here after a long afternoon, but a fun afternoon. We look forward to it every single year inside the Sacramento Kings practice facility, where they turn a basketball gym into a picture day-like atmosphere that you would see inside your old gymnasium or multi-purpose room back in high school or junior high or elementary school. It's essentially adult picture day, and it's a fun day because it's the unofficial tip-off of the Sacramento Kings season. They get all this media stuff out of the way, and then starting tomorrow, training camp begins. Before we dive into all the guys you're going to hear from today, you're going to hear from a lot of the top guys on the Sacramento Kings roster and the coaching staff. I wanted to share with you just my takeaways, having been inside of the practice facility and inside of the Golden One Center and around these guys, and not just talking to them with the camera being on, but just kind of getting the vibes and feeling the vibes of the room. And that's one of my first takeaways, is just the vibes with the Sacramento Kings are just so fun, right? This team is just great, and they're confident and comfortable together, right? Of course, there are some new faces, the biggest one being DeMar DeRozan, who you'll hear from here in a second. But for the most part, the continuity with this group, they're relatively the same group, right? They're very familiar with each other. They know what the expectations are for this team. So the vibes are just very fun, very like friends group. There was a moment that I captured and put out on Twitter, and I have a lot of stuff from inside the Golden One Center and the Kings practice facility that you can check out on my Twitter at MattGeorgeSack. But there's a picture of Mike Brown took over one of the photo booth sections when Keegan Murray was getting his photos taken. And Mike grabs the camera and steps up on the box and starts taking photos of Keegan. Well, if you don't know, like, everybody likes to mess with Keegan Murray. Everybody does, but especially Mike Brown. He loves to mess with Keegan. So he's taking pictures of Keegan, then he puts the camera down like he's giving Keegan directions, right? And he starts telling Keegan, hey, smile, but actually show your teeth, all right? So Keegan smiles with his teeth and then flips him the bird, gives him a little of a little naughty gesture. And it just speaks to just kind of the energy and the fun and the relationships that this team has. So the vibes were amazing inside of Media Day. Last season, vibes were great with Media Day last season too. And look, everybody comes into Media Day with the confidence and the belief that we're going to make the playoffs, we're going to win it all, blah, blah, blah. Everybody's optimistic. Last year, there was a lot of talk of championship. Like, championship was a word that was brought up a lot last year, both by Mike Brown and De'Aaron Fox, especially. Not that the Kings were walking in saying, we're going to win a championship this year, and they're certainly not doing the same thing this year. But there was the talk of, like, we expect to, like, what do we plan for if not to actually compete for a championship? We expect to compete at the highest level. There was not that much talk about that this year. But the overall feeling that I got from this group is that the expectation is nothing less than we expect to be great. We expect to compete at the highest level. We expect to win at a high level. We expect to be back into the playoffs. And from that point, we'll see how far that we can go. This team just expects to be playing in May and maybe even June. That is how they operated. There was no, let's talk about it. There was no cockiness. There was no arrogance. There was just this cool expectation of, we're a very good basketball team. We know there are a lot of good teams in this league. We expect to be one of them. And that's another takeaway, right? The Kings don't look at the West like, oh, look at all these elite teams that we're trying to catch up to or be a part of. They look at it like, yeah, we're in that group. We're up there with OKC. We're up there with Minnesota. We're up there with Denver and with Dallas. Why not us, right? I just got that feeling from Media Day today. And then there was a lot of talk of injuries today, whether it's the most recent injuries that we heard about, like Trey Lyles going down for a short period of time, Jordan McLaughlin dealing with a little bit of an injury coming into training camp. Of course, Kevin Huerter returning from his shoulder surgery, Devin Carter having recently underwent shoulder surgery. So there was some injury talk, nothing catastrophic or pessimistic or doom and gloom by any means, but definitely some talks of injuries, and returning from injuries was a major theme of Media Day today. But enough of me blabbing about Media Day. You don't want to hear from me. You want to hear from the Kings themselves. And of course, DeMar DeRozan was a massive topic of conversation. And when he stepped in front of the cameras to speak, it was a swarm of media. Looking forward to chatting with him. And I'm going to share with you some of the best clips I thought from his Media Day scrum. And here's him talking about like how he fits with the Kings. Was a pretty consistent question that not just he got, but different players got. How does DeMar DeRozan fit with what you do? And DeMar's approach to fitting with Sacramento is pretty straightforward.
I mean, I'm simple, man. I always let it be, whatever you need from me, however you need it, just let me know. I never put too much thought process into it. I love the game of basketball. I'm gonna figure it out best way I can. Individually and as a team, So to me, I just keep it simple. Whatever you need from me, let me know.
Keep it simple, I think, is the whole point there, right? He is going to come in. He knows what he can do. He knows how to play basketball at a very high level. He's a 15 seasons going into his 16 seasons veteran of the NBA. So he's going to come in and there's no ego. There's no expectations. I'm just going to do what's asked of me. I'm going to do what I'm told to do, and I'm going to help this team however I'm expected to help this team and do whatever I can. So that's a really refreshing mindset from someone coming into Sacramento with the pedigree and the success that DeMar DeRozan has had in his career. But he's going from the Chicago Bulls in the East to, of course, the Sacramento Kings in the West. And while the East did have the champion in the Boston Celtics last year, the West is just considered to be a whole different beast when it comes to conferences. I asked DeMar about that and competing with the best of the best pretty much on a nightly basis here in the Western Conference.
Coming out west from the Eastern Conference, you know how wild it is just in this conference in general, but you've also shared you're here to win. You're here because you believe you have the best chance to win here.
For sure.
Just what's your thought on how difficult this conference is going to be, but how difficult the Kings are going to be as well?
I mean, I played in the West 3 years when I was in San Antonio. I mean, to me, you want that as a competitor. You want, you want to be placed in the toughest, competition. It brings the best out of you. I'm looking forward to that. These guys are extremely talented. They want to win from top to bottom, from the fan base to, everybody. When you see something like that, you want to be a part of that. And, for me, I'm looking forward to just, bringing it every single night.
Of course, every game is important, but it feels like now with how close the conference was last year, just every game carries a tremendous amount of weight. From your experience just being in the league, as long as you have the parity in the league right now and how good it seems like everybody is, how fun and exciting is that as a competitor?
Like I said, that's what you want. You don't want no easy day off. A true competitor don't. You want to test yourself, and you want the best to come out of you every single day. It's fun being in this conference. Looking forward to it. I think, you look, one out of 15 teams in this conference, 14 of them solid. Anything can happen. And with that, you can't take no nights off. You shouldn't want to, but being in this situation and make you look forward to not taking a night off.
A couple things to take away from that. One, DeMar does not like anything easy, clearly, which is one of the reasons why he's excited about the competition in the West. But again, the Kings and DeMar don't look at the West like, oh, we're amongst beasts, like we're in a lion's den. He's like, no, we're one of the lions, right? Like the Sacramento Kings, we expect to be. The West is very, very good. We expect to be part of the reason why the West is very, very good, or at least those are the vibes and those are the thoughts and feelings that I took away from some of DeMar's comments there. DeMar was asked about working with Keegan Murray. which I was really glad. I can't remember who asked the question, but I'm really glad somebody asked this question, because what is one of the criticisms that we've heard of the Kings going out and getting DeMar DeRozan? Oh, he could take the ball away. He could take shots away from Keegan Murray. He could hinder the development of Keegan Murray. Well, allow DeMar to kind of put those thoughts to rest.
I'm looking forward to that. I ain't gonna lie, I'm looking forward to that, because even looking at him, I was the same way when I was young, quiet, didn't say much, just kind of went along with the flow. But that kid got a lot of talent. So it's gonna be fun just to be able to be a vet to him and kind of get him out of his comfort zone and take him to the next level.
You have a guy that's not just excited to join the Sacramento Kings and get the payday that he got here and to win games here. You have a guy that's coming here to Sacramento and saying he's excited to work with Keegan Murray. He's excited to be a veteran for Keegan Murray, and how Keegan's demeanor reminds him of himself from when he first came into the league, which if Keegan can have a DeMar DeRozan-esque career, the Sacramento Kings are going to be in very, 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 very good shape for a long time. But I never subscribed to that idea that Keegan Murray could somehow be hurt or hindered by DeMar being here. And that kind of leads into the final clip from DeMar that I wanted to play for you. I asked DeMar about this. Like, there's this thought that DeMar being another offensive player on an offensively gifted roster, right? There's only one ball. There's only so many shots to go around. That could be a negative thing for the Kings. DeMar says if you think that way or talk that way, you basically don't know basketball.
Some people might look at this roster and say there's a lot of mouths to feed with how much talent there is. Like, it's a bad thing. But from your perspective of having so many guys around you, plus yourself, that can score the basketball, how versatile and exciting is that for this group?
I mean, that's everything. When I hear people say things like that, it just shows me how much they don't know basketball. You've seen Boston just win it with all the talent that they have on their team. They made it work. You got to have talent in this league. It's no more just one guy could go out there and do it. Two guys could go out there and do it. You need a collective effort of guys that's able to go out there and compete on a nightly basis. And you just can't always just rely on two guys to be the savior of that. It's a team effort. And you look at this team, you have that talent from top to bottom, on the bench, starting, whatever it may be. So, you need that. You need that now if you really want to win at a high level.
Got so much more for you from Sacramento Kings Media Day. Coming up next, you're going to hear from De'Aaron Fox. But before we get to that, I want to let you know, like I said at the top of the show, today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, which is America's #1 sportsbook. When you get a hunch in the middle of a game that you're watching, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the exact same page where you can place your bets. You can get a feel of the game, have all the information right in front of you to make the best bets that you can. And you can get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Now, this, of course, is not just for NFL fans, but with NFL football going on right now, it's a good way to make some money before Kings season and the NBA season starts. We're still a little over a week away from the start of the preseason itself as well. So allow football to hold you over and bet $5. Just put $5 down on whatever you want, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed on FanDuel.com. I got plenty more for you here from Sacramento Kings Media Day. Let's hear from De'Aaron Fox. A couple of clips for you. First, Fox talking at length about DeRozan, and Fox made sure to remind DeMar just how old Fox was when DeMar was drafted into the league.
DeMar is saying that he chose to come to Sacramento specifically because he feels this is the best place for him to come to win, to join to you guys and what you've been building over the last handful of years. How rewarding is that to hear a guy of his status say, I think this is my best chance?
I definitely think it's great. I mean, DeMar was drafted in 2009, and I told him, I was like, bro, I was in middle school. I was in middle school when you got drafted. I was either in 5th grade or in 6th grade, one of the two. I went to high school in 13. So, yeah, I think when he was drafted, I would have been going into the 6th grade, I want to say. So just being able to see the career that he's had and all the big games that he's played in, and then being able to play with him while he's still playing at a high level, I think is definitely a blessing. I think he adds a whole nother dynamic to our team.
How would you describe that, his presence, what he brings, like the attributes, and just how you think he's going to fit in and what he can do?
Well, I think for starters is we draw the same type of defenders. So, like, 9 times out of 10, I'm being guarded with some type of wing. So I think we take the pressure off of each other in that aspect. But I think with him being on the court, whenever he has the ball in his hands especially, I mean, he's one of the best ISO scorers in the league. He's been that for a long period of time. People talk about his age, him being 35 already. But, I mean, he played the most minutes in the league last year. So your age doesn't matter. You're playing at a high level and you're playing a lot of minutes. However old you are, it doesn't really matter. And then just his playmaking, being able to be on the court with him, him talking about if a double team's coming from this way or from this way, what he wants to happen. I definitely think his playmaking is a very underrated part of his game. And I think whenever you're actually in a gym with him and you kind of understand his thought process, you kind of see it.
How explosive can the offense be given that, De'Aaron?
I mean, he like I said, he gives us a whole nother dynamic. I mean, he's one of the best ISO guys in the league. If you don't run a double at him, then he has a field day. And I think for us as a team and for me as a player, he gets you open shots. He gets guys open shots. So with that, I mean, like I said, it adds a whole nother dynamic to us as a team.
I'm telling you right now, De'Aaron Fox is going to get the best and most open looks he's ever gotten in the NBA by playing with DeMar DeRozan this season. There are going to be more than a handful of moments this year where we're looking around going, how in the world is De'Aaron Fox this wide open? Or how are teams leaving Fox and giving him this good of a look? It's going to be because more often than not, DeMar DeRozan has the ball in his hands. He's attacking, and the defense is trying to do whatever the hell they can to stop him. One more thing from De'Aaron Fox. Of course, I had to ask him about his buddy Malik Monk returning to Sacramento.
Malik said Sacramento is home. You were obviously a big part of him initially coming here, but to watch him make the decision on his own to stay here and maybe turn down more money to remain here, how rewarding is that for you, being his friend as well as his teammate?
I think that has to do with just the culture that we've created as well. I don't think he would stay here for one person. So just what we've done as an organization, trying to build a winning organization, a winning culture. He saw that, and obviously he was able to see it firsthand. And I mean, just being able to have that, like, you have to start somewhere. And obviously we did make the playoffs the year before, and then we didn't make it last year, but you still continue to try to build winning habits. And I think he's done that as a player. He's seen us do that as a team and as an organization, and you want to continue to be a part of that.
Speaking of Malik Monk, why don't we hear from Malik? And let's just say he views Sacramento in his heart the same way that many of us view Sacramento in our hearts.
It just shows the sky's the limit, that you can achieve more too. So I just, like you say, I just sit back and just thought about the ways I got here, thought about the struggles I had, and I can let them go now, and pick up some new struggles. So yeah, man, it's life-changing for sure.
What's the feeling to walk in here today, that uniform on, knowing that you have that business behind you? You made a decision to stay here and make this a long-term home for yourself.
I'm home now. That's what it felt like, and I'm gonna continue to feel like that. So happy.
You feel that in the community too, and within.
Hell yeah, I felt that before. I felt that before the contract, and I definitely feel it now. So yeah.
Sacramento is happy to be home for Malik Monk, too. I can promise you that. All right, let's hear from Domantas Sabonis, who also talked about DeMar DeRozan, working with DeMar during the offseason, and just what he brings to the Sacramento Kings and how he fits with the Kings.
You've gotten the chance to work with DeMar already this offseason. You talked about that a little bit already. But for the guys who are going to get to, on your team, experience that with training camp with him for the first time, should they expect with working with him?
He plays at his pace, but it's effective. It's effective, really effective. I feel like the more the guys ask him questions, he's more than open to share, and I feel like we're all going to learn a lot just by being around him.
You said before, too, that you have to learn how to play with him and learn how to incorporate him, but also knowing your offense, how easy do you think and how great do you think he's going to just naturally fit into what you do?
I mean, we're a scoring offense, and he can score on every level, so I think it's just going to fit in easily.
Having spent some time around DeMar, what have you learned so far about him in terms of being like a tone setter and a culture guy for this team?
He's going to come ready every game, and I feel like for us that was our problem last year. We won against the best, lost against the lower seeds, and I feel like him and his leadership. He's a veteran, Hall of Fame career. He's gonna make sure we're all showing up to take care of all those games.
How do you think his style, incorporating the way he plays the game into the way you guys play the game, changes things for you guys offensively?
I don't think it changes anything. If anything, it's gonna get us more open looks. The defenses are gonna have to throw a lot of tension on him, which kind of frees up everybody else a bit more, And if they don't, well, we already know what he can do, so it's gonna be a problem.
Sabonis brought up something there that I actually didn't initially catch when we were doing the interviews. He talked about, like, I've shared with you how I feel and how different coaches feel like DeMar fixes Sacramento's offense and how he can help Sacramento late in the shot clock with his ISO scoring, just give him another go-to score. But Domas points out there that DeMar brings a consistency to how he approaches every single game, regardless of who he's playing, where he's playing, why he's playing, whatever. Like, DeMar brings the same approach to every single game, and that consistency was a real issue for the Sacramento Kings last season, with playing really well against some teams, but playing not so well against bad teams, right? The Detroit Pistons loss is just one of many that come to mind. So DeMar being here and the steadiness and consistency of how DeMar approaches every single game, the Kings can hopefully learn from that, and he can hold them accountable. DeMar can hold them accountable to make sure that those poor starts or poor performances against whatever teams, or those inconsistent showcases, hopefully at the very least they're less frequent and less common than they were for Sacramento last season. Still got so many guys for you to hear from. You're going to hear from Kevin Huerter dealing with his injuries and coming back from that. You're going to hear from Keegan Murray, and then you're going to hear from both head coach Mike Brown and general manager Malik Monk. That's all still coming for you after I tell you about another great sponsor here at Locked On Kings, talking about Game Time. If you're getting as excited as I am to watch this Kings team in action, you want to get your tickets to whether it's opening night or whatever game this season, Game Time is the marketplace for you. And Game Time has a feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. They have their all-in pricing, a feature that you can toggle, which shows you your cost of your seats up front. No surprise fees at checkout. You have the best seat views you will find anywhere else, and you can get your tickets for whatever the event is, right? It's a massive stadium concert or event at like an NFL game or a Kings game at the Golden One Center, or maybe a concert or a comedy show or a theatrical production at your local theater. Game Time has all of those events and tickets for you. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Let's hear from Keegan Murray going into his third season in the NBA. And we already played for you earlier DeMar DeRozan's comments about how he looks forward to being a veteran for Keegan. Well, Keegan shared some of the things that DeRozan does that he looks forward to learning and developing into his own game.
I feel like with my athleticism, there's a lot of room for improvement. One thing I want to do is just continue to get to the foul line more, because I shot a good percentage, but I was only there maybe 2 times a game. So just continue to be aggressive in that aspect, get free points at the foul line.
How much do you feel you can learn from DeMar? That's one of his big skills, is being able to draw fouls and get the foul line, but just his ability to create in general in isolation and create for his team. How much do you feel you can learn from just working with him?
Yeah, I mean, a big thing with him is just his pace. He plays at his own pace, and every player in the NBA has different pace. But just watching him, I think a big thing with him is he knows how to get easy buckets. So that's something I'm definitely going to pay attention to, how he can get those easy buckets, and not just, I mean, for me, I made it harder on myself just trying to fly off screens and shoot threes. But for him, he's able to play his own game, play at his own pace, not let the defense dictate him.
I cannot wait to see how different Keegan looks, or how Keegan develops, and if he picks up a skill set or two from DeMar DeRozan. I'm glad Keegan brought up also getting to the foul line too, because that's another level of Keegan's game that he could take to extreme heights if he's able to start to learn how to draw fouls and get to the foul line, where he's a pretty efficient free throw shooter. Another thing that we've talked about a lot this offseason is with the departure of Harrison Barnes, Keegan Murray is the main guy that the Sacramento Kings are going to turn to guard the best wings and forwards of opposing teams, and he'll even get opportunity at times guarding the best guards. We saw it with Steph Curry over the last couple of seasons, but those forwards and wings are going to be his responsibility, and I asked Keegan about that.
Just looking at the roster, Keegan, it looks like a lot of the defensive assignments for the bigger wings and forwards are going to kind of fall upon you. How much are you looking forward to that challenge? I know you spent all last summer working one-on-one with De'Aaron, but facing those bigger guys, how much are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be fun. It'll be fun to just have another challenge, just to see what I'm capable of. So I'm excited for that. And I mean, I tried a little bit at the Team USA thing, to try and guard bigger guys just to get a feel for it and things like that. So I'm excited. Mike's told me that's probably what's going to happen. So.
How much better do you feel you are today from when you first stepped into those two Team USA opportunities? How much did that help your development?
Yeah, I think it's been big. I mean, it's the best 5-on-5 you can get in the world. So just being able to go there, and especially midsummer, just figuring it out where you're at and things like that. So it's been two great opportunities for me, and I've learned significantly from both of those.
Keegan is clearly a learner by doing, and he learned a lot from obviously being a rookie in the league. He learned a lot from working with De'Aaron Fox last summer. And then this summer, he's learned a lot from working with Team USA, and I'm sure he's got an opportunity to guard LeBron and KD and some of the bigger guys at Team USA, that he's also going to have those responsibilities with the Kings this season. So again, I look forward to seeing how he has developed and changed and grown just from those opportunities like he did from guarding De'Aaron last summer. Kevin Huerter is a guy that has some question marks surrounding him coming into this season, not just where he'll play, if he'll be the starting two guard for the Kings again. Apparently, I didn't catch this initially, but Mike Brown told Stiles and Watkins on Sacktown Sports Radio that the plan is for Keon Ellis to be the starter going into training camp at that two guard spot, but that doesn't mean that he has that position locked up. Kevin Huerter will be competing for it. But there's also questions about Kevin returning from his shoulder injury, and Kevin provided us with a positive update on his rehab process with that shoulder that was injured at the end of last season that he had to have surgery on.
I feel good. I'm getting there.
Yeah. What's the recovery looking like right now? I know you saw some on the court stuff. Just what is it looking like right now with the recovery?
Yeah, I mean, I 6 months at October 3rd. Okay. So I was originally given like a 6-month process or time to get back. Have another follow-up mid-October. The last step for me is really just getting 5-on-5 full contact. Haven't gone contact against a player yet. Not clear to do that, but everything else. I've been 1-on-0 for 4 months now, which has been a lot of fun. So
you're itching to get back, just to get
back, go against somebody else.
How does everything feel? The shot, everything else, with the shoulder being the issue?
Feels good. It all does. Like I said, it's a lot of 1v0. Really I've been in the gym like a regular off season since early June. Just haven't been able to go pick up or go live against anybody, but everything else feels really good.
You talked about focusing on all of the aspects of basketball this off season as opposed to just the offense that you played in last year. How much is being able to go 1v1 be done kind of help that?
Yeah, I mean, just getting back to myself, obviously. Continuing to work on anything. That's kind of how we left it off. I think last time we all spoke is really taking this summer to continue to be a better basketball player as a whole, and I feel like I've done that. And ready to obviously put it to the test against other guys, but spent a lot of time, hours in the gym, hours in the weight room, hours rehabbing. So I'm excited to get back and do the fun part.
Like we talked about with De'Aaron Fox earlier, and even more so because he's going to be out there with Fox as well. When Kevin Huerter returns, for as good of a three-point shooter as Kevin Huerter is, he should not be getting the open looks that he's more than likely going to get more frequently with the Sacramento Kings now. And of course, if Kevin Huerter's on as a three-point shooter, there's absolutely 100% a spot for him in this rotation. And when he's on, Mike Brown's going to have a hard time keeping him off the floor. That's what we are all rooting for, of course. But I asked Kevin about that three-point shot and getting more of those shots and more of those opportunities playing with DeMar and De'Aaron and Domantas Sabonis. And I thought it was interesting what Kevin said about the types of shots he's looking forward to getting more than he's gotten over the last couple of seasons in Sacramento.
Kevin, for as good of a shooter as you are, you seem to get maybe a lot more open looks defensively than a team could or should be giving you because of playing with guys like Fox and Domas. Now adding DeMar to that fold and how much attention he'll draw away from yourself and keep getting guys on the perimeter. Does that make your eyes light up with the idea of how many looks you're going to get?
Yeah, it does. It does. Obviously, DeMar is a special offensive player, has been since he's been in the NBA. Unfortunately, I've had to play against him for 6 years now. So it'll be interesting to see how teams guard us. I don't know if I know the answer to that yet. We'll figure that out. But there's a lot of there's a lot of answers teams are going to have for us on any given night, and whether let Fox go one-on-one or DeMar go one-on-one or let Domas go one-on-one, it's in a lot of ways pick your poison. And so I'm looking forward to more catch and shoot opportunities. I feel like my time in Sac, a lot of it has been off the move and really working for a lot of the shots that I'm getting, with obviously the attention that Domas and Fox have always gotten. But some of those easier looks, the catch and shoot, get more in transition, being in the right spot, and just getting off to play off those guys.
Huerter really has had to try to master over the last couple seasons that 3-point shot off balance, fading away, coming off the curl DHO from Domantas Sabonis. That is not an easy shot, even if he's at times made it look easy. So for Huerter to get more of the opportunity of those feet set, catch and shoot 3-point shots, for him to get a higher volume of those, that probably is going to do wonders for not just his 3-point shooting percentage, but just for the Sacramento Kings 3-point offense as well. So I understand completely what he's saying there. Mike Brown shared with us the theme for this season. It's climbing together. I initially was going to play it for you on the podcast, but it's a long clip and we're already pretty deep into this podcast here, but I encourage you to go, and maybe I'll play it on a future episode of Locked On Kings during training camp. But it's on my Twitter at Matt George Sack. He explains about where this climbing together theme came from, and a guest speaker that the team had yesterday to just talk to the team. And he already had shirts made and stuff like that. So it's a pretty cool theme, this climbing together theme. So go and check that out if you're curious. And again, I'll probably play it for you later on the podcast. But I do have one clip to play for you from Mike Brown. He was asked about the starting shooting guard position. And of course, Malik Monk was brought up. You know my feelings on the situation. I believe that Malik Monk should start. That's just my feeling on the situation. I understand why Mike feels a different way. And Mike actually used a comparison of Malik Monk and his importance to the Sacramento Kings coming off the bench with Manu Ginobili and the San Antonio Spurs. Remember, Mike Brown was an assistant under Greg Popovich with the San Antonio Spurs during their heyday.
No, the first thing I will say is this. I want guys on my team that not only want to start, but want to be the best. Again, that's going back to Ed's speech yesterday. You want everybody on your team to want to have a commitment to being their best. And you want everybody wanting to be at the highest level in that group. But obviously not everybody can get there. And so I'm excited that Malik wants to start. I know his teammates are excited that he's that type of competitor. But at the end of the day, I also know that Malik is about the team, and he wouldn't do anything to disappoint his teammates, especially his best friends on the team. He doesn't want to bring them down, and just as importantly, he doesn't want to bring down the city of Sacramento. So I know he'll embrace whatever role we throw at him while continuing to compete and push whoever is in front of him or the side of him or behind him while we're trying to get better as a group. But I've said this before. I was fortunate, blessed, lucky, however you want to call it, to coach two of the best 6 men ever. And one's in the Hall of Fame. I'm not sure if the other, in Manu Ginobili, Andre should be in the Hall of Fame relatively soon. But those guys were part of 8 NBA championships, and 7 of them they won as 6 men. And Manu's made a boatload of money. Andre's made a boatload of money. So it can be done. And I would say this again to anybody. Manu came off the bench behind a guy in Bruce Bowen that it's a career 6-point. I think I might be giving him a little bit of bonus, but he averaged 6 points a game for his entire career. And there's not a single person in this room, including myself, that would say that I would take Bruce over Manu. But Manu started Bruce started and Manu came off the bench because that's what gave the team pop. That's what made, in my opinion, and Pop's opinion, who's one of the greatest of all time, that's what gave that team an extra advantage that no other team had. And I truly feel we have that in Malik.
I love that stuff from Mike Brown there. And I get where he's coming from. I totally get where he's coming. And look, if Malik could be the Manu Ginobili for the Sacramento Kings, again, the Kings are in really, really good shape. I haven't wavered on I believe Malik Monk should start at the 2-guard spot. Just put your best foot forward. But I understand Mike's reasoning and decision-making for if Malik will go forward. He didn't explicitly say there that Malik was not going to get the opportunity to start. He's not ruling it out. But from the way he talks about Malik, it sounds like Mike is pretty set in. Yeah, Malik is the sixth man for this team. Normally, Monte McNair is not the best soundbite. And I say that with full respect because Monte is very good at what he does, right? He holds his cards close to his chest, as all good general managers do. But Monte, I thought, had some really good things to say during his media day press conference today. He actually started the day for us. And it started with him expressing an area offensively. We talked a lot about the Kings potentially wanting to improve their roster defensively, but they still went and basically bolstered this offensive group. And one of the areas that Monte says the Kings need to get back to is playing fast.
We're certainly we know the tenets. We want to play fast. We've been pretty good at that. I'd like to get even higher than we were last year. I think we were still top 10, but this should be a top 5 unit in the offensive pace, not the pace that maybe some websites have. Like we're concerned with our offensive pace. We actually want our defense to slow the other team down, so sometimes that affects that number. But we have the fastest guy in the league in De'Aaron, so that's going to be a big part of what we do. We've got guys that can score at all 3 levels. Obviously, DeMar is a maestro in the mid-range. We got 3-point shooters. We got guys that can get to the rim. We're gonna hit the glass. We're gonna offensive rebound. We're gonna find second chance points. So we're gonna attack you from all angles.
This next soundbite was a really good question by Jake Gaden of CBS 13 here in Sacramento. We talked a lot about coming into this offseason, the Kings addressing their length issue, right? And how many times teams like the New Orleans Pelicans, who have a lot of length and athleticism, really bothered Sacramento. Well, if we're being honest, looking at at least the top of this roster, the Kings didn't really address that too much. But Jake asked Monte about his thoughts on that length issue, and Monte gave a pretty good response.
Monte, I know length was an issue last year, specifically against the Pelicans. Do you feel like you addressed the length issue that you guys were dealing with last year? And if so, how do you feel like you addressed it?
Well, I think for us, like, we're going to have to beat teams that, the Pelicans have some length that they can throw at us. I think one thing is now they got one other tough offensive guy that they're going to have to throw somebody at. And so, that may free up De'Aaron to have a little more space or whatever. But we certainly have some guys that I think you'll see that are a little bigger, longer. Jalen McDaniels certainly has some length. Obviously Alex Len coming back is a big 7-footer in the middle. But, at the same time, we're going to have to go to our strengths, and teams are going to have to adapt to us as well.
I'm still skeptical about the length that he's added. Jalen McDaniels, as great of a guy as he seems to be, and I enjoyed talking to him today, I don't expect Jalen McDaniels to get a whole lot of playing time unless things are going very, very wrong for the Sacramento Kings. That being said, I love what Monte said there at the very end. The Kings are going to force teams to adjust to them. The Kings can't just be expected to be the ones adjusting all the time. I really liked Monte saying that there towards the end. Finally, last clip I have for you in this podcast. Monte was asked about the training camp battles, especially the battle at the shooting guard position.
Yeah, I don't know about battles. Mike gets to make all the decisions on who plays and all that. I think my job and our front office's job is to give Mike a bunch of options. And so that means whether guys are battling for positions or, like we said, we're dealing with some injuries, that guys have opportunity to play. I think that's the key. And then Mike and Jay and Doug and Luke, their job is to fit those pieces together on a nightly basis, whether that's based on the opponent, based on injury, based on how guys are playing. But I think we got guys up and down the roster that can contribute and fit around each other well.
So the ball's in Mike Brown's court. He gets to make the decisions, and the battles begin tomorrow as Sacramento Kings training camp officially opens. The plan is to, of course, attend training camp and cover training camp extensively, and I'll bring you everything that I hear, everything that I see, everything that I notice inside of the Sacramento Kings practice facility now that it's done with picture day. They're tearing down all the cameras and everything and getting it back for getting to the grind and getting ready for this Sacramento Kings season. And then a week from Wednesday, is the first preseason game for the Sacramento Kings. So it won't be long until we're seeing this team somewhat in action. NBA season's basically here. Sacramento Kings season is finally here. We've made through it through the offseason together. I'm looking forward to a great, great season with all of you. Make sure you keep it tuned into the Locked On Kings podcast all season long for all of the daily Sacramento Kings coverage that hopefully you could possibly want. I appreciate your support. Can't wait to have you join me on the next episode. Until then, my name is Matt George. You've been listening to the Locked On Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.